Hey YouTube, what's good? This is Steven, and welcome back. Alright, so you guys may or may not know about this story. It's gaining a little traction here and there. It's not like a big story, but I think this story is really interesting, and I think it deserves a little attention. A little, you know, for a few reasons, but I'll just get into the story though. Alright, so John Mayer. Alright, so John Mayer. You guys remember John Mayer? If you don't, it's okay. You're not missing much. But John Mayer, he was like a singer. I guess he still is a singer or something. But he posted some message referencing Nicki Minaj, right? So I'm going to get the message. And he posted this message on Twitter, by the way. All right. So he posted the following, quote unquote, I spend an inordinate amount of time per day wondering if Nicki Minaj would like me or not. All right. So I'm like, all right. Very interesting. Because as you guys may know, back in 2010, John Mayer did an interview with Playboy. And in this interview, he said some really racially insensitive things, some really fucked up shit, really, at the expense of black women, and to an extent, just black people in general. All right. So let me pull up that information right quick. All right. He said a few things in this article from Playboy back in 2010, by the way. All right. So this is what he said back in 2010. All right. Someone asked me the other day, what does it feel like now that I have. Oh, sorry. Let me start over. My bad. Someone asked me the other day, what does it feel like to have a hood pass? I'm like, who gave John Mayer a hood pass? Who? Who? I'm like an owl. Like who? Like who gave John Mayer a hood pass? I don't remember any rapper or popular black person back in 2010 or earlier giving John Mayer some type of a hood stamp of approval. I don't know. All right. So John continued, quote unquote. And by the way, it's sort of a contradiction in terms because if you really had a hood pass, you could call it a nigger pass. He really said that. He really said that. All right. And he goes on to say, why are you pulling a punch and calling it a hood pass if you really have a hood pass? So I'm guessing you're supposed to call it a nigger pass. I guess that's what his mentality is when it comes to like hood black people or just black people in general. Like, oh, I have a nigger pass, you know. See, but he goes on to say, but I say, I can't have a hood pass. I never walked in a restaurant, asked for a table, and been told we're full. So he gets it. Oddly enough, he gets that there is racial discrimination, but he, in a roundabout way, engages in it himself and seems to be somewhat indifferent to it, to an extent. If you can say this type of language, just very just la di da, just very nonchalantly say this type of language, you know, then I don't think he really cares. Like he knows that there's racial discrimination, like pretty much your average white person probably does, but he doesn't really care enough about it to actually challenge that. Instead, he adds to it in a way. All right, but there's more to this article though. There's a lot more. All right, quote unquote. This is what he goes on to say later in this article. Quote unquote, my dick is sort of like a white supremacist. Yeah, he really said that too. And he's saying this in regards to who he wants to date, right? And who he wants to, you know, have sex with. He goes on to say, quote unquote, I have Benetton heart. Well, I got a Benetton heart and a fucking David Duke cock. I'm going to start dating separately from my dick. So he brings David Duke into this metaphor now. And you know who David Duke is. Like, some of you, I know, perhaps some people don't, but David Duke is pretty much the dude who runs the KKK, right? So he's really just digging himself a hole here. And he's saying all this just really just messed up stuff. But I'm happy that he's saying this, though. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. I'm not mad that he's telling the truth. I'm mad at what the truth is. But should we really be surprised, though? That's the thing. Should we really be surprised at the truth? Like, I don't like this stuff, but I'm glad that he's being upfront and saying it, right? Because that's the thing. We really need white people to be a lot more upfront. Because this whole, you know, smiling in your face while secretly plotting against you and stabbing you in your back, we don't really need that. We really need just upfront stuff. We need to know who we're dealing with. And I think a lot of times white people, they've been more covert lately. They're not so upfront about it. So, you know, thanks a lot, John Mayer. Arlena. You know, I didn't think I would be thanking you in this video, but it seems like I am. But yeah, John Mayer, you know, just being a cave beast, being a cave dog, a soggy saltine cracker. All right. So, despite all this, the article goes on, John insists, quote unquote, I've never been a bad boy. You know, let me just skip over that part. It doesn't have anything to do with this topic here. But he also goes on to say some things about, basically, he doesn't find, like, black women aren't attracted to him. Thus, that whole white supremacist David Duke metaphor, right? Instead of just saying, you know, well, you know, black women typically aren't the type of women I go for. Still, some people would have some things to say. Sure, but it would be a lot more respectful and also just racially sensitive, you know, to just, well, you know, like I said, it's good that he's just letting us know what he's about. All right, it is. So let's see. So in another article, I think this may have been the same article actually, but he goes on to talk about, you know, he does, however, like, you know, Holly Robinson Pete, Kerry Washington, and Karen Parsons, you know, who played Hillary on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You know, but, you know, those are like, you know, the pretty for a black woman type of women that he likes, you know. All right, so I gave you pretty much some good receipts on John Mayer, enough to know what he's about. And he never really made any type of apologies, other than I think he apologized to Jessica Simpson. Other than, I don't, he also mentioned her in his Playboy interview. He apologized for the way he mentioned her, but the black women, they ain't get no apologies. All right, y'all. He ain't give black women or the black community an apology. All right. So again, typical cave beast, cave dog. You know, if you just look at him, he already looks like a cave dog anyway. Cave boy, crackers. You know, soggy saltine. You know, very greasy, you know. But yeah, he has the nerve to pop up talking about Nicki Minaj now, right? How you get the nerve to do that? How you get the audacity to do that? Just to think you can just pop up now? You think we forgot about that just because it's 7 years later? You think we forgot? No, I know I didn't forget. I remembered when this whole situation popped up, and other people remembered too. I didn't forget, that you had anti-black sentiments, white supremacist leanings, white supremacist mentality. No, who forgets that? I don't. But apparently Nicki Minaj does, or maybe she didn't know. Perhaps, maybe she just, you know, didn't hear the news that day. All right. um, but Nicki Minaj actually responded to John Mayer's tweet about her. So she responded or replied with the following, quote unquote, "Would my body be your wonderland?" she wrote, before later adding in a separate tweet, asking for a friend. So I don't know if she's like, because, okay, for me, I kind of think Nicki Minaj is like a coon on the low. She ain't like a wild ass, out of control, coon-tastic, wild ass coon on the loose. She a little low key with it, but I really like Nicki Minaj is a coon on the low. Just for that whole Malcolm X situation, she's a coon, really. And when she offended Jewish people, she was very quick to apologize, right? But when she offended black folks, all of a sudden, no, like we get like a back and forth with Nicki Minaj on that for some reason, right? But I don't know if Nicki Minaj is maybe perhaps setting him up. I don't think like setting him up for like, a big tell off. I don't think so though. I don't get that vibe. I don't know. I think that would be great. Really, I kind of think she should have just not responded. But I guess maybe Nicki Minaj was bored. Maybe she wanted some more publicity. I don't know. Maybe she just want to be a wild ass coon on the loose. Maybe she's training to become a wild ass coon on the loose. Just cooning out. Coon politics, coon, coon culture, coon religion. I don't know. But yeah, she wanted to respond to this dude and also just continue to give this story a bit more traction than it actually should have had. It should have just probably stopped at John Mayer's initial tweet, honestly. But, Nicki Minaj, I guess, wants some more publicity. Perhaps this is the PR move, But I could see this possibly blowing up in Nicki Minaj's face if she does get to the point where she's like, okay, let me, tell this dude off and give him his walking papers and shoot him down. Then all of a sudden, the media is going to remix this and make you, Nicki Minaj, out to be the angry black woman. You as a black woman should be, the way they're going to put it in the media, like, oh, you should be happy that anyone checking for you that's not black. You should be flattered that a white man is checking for you, Nicki. You should be flattered that this cave beast is checking for you. This cave boy. This soggy saltine cracker over here. Greasy, devil-looking self. You should be happy. That's how I think they would, if this story goes left and Nicki, says something that becomes, offensive to, white men in their ego, right? John Mayer replies to Nicki Minaj's tweet with the following, quote unquote, "Please hold, losing my shit. This isn't my reply yet." So I think as of this point, he hasn't actually made his, official reply to this, but he has continued to perpetuate this story. And I know some people in the comment section are going to be like, Well, aren't you perpetuating this story too? You're talking about it. Yes, all right, I get that. It's different. Shut up. Mm. My perpetuating this story, inadvertently, of course, is to bring awareness to it for us, for Black folks, so we know what's up. Because some people just might not know about this information. Honestly, he may still have some Black female fans who really checking for him, thinking, "Oh, I'm just so in love with John Mayer. I'm in love with this K beast. I'm in love with this K boy." Some Black women probably really feeling that way. And they might not know about this information. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing this. All right. And also, this is helping out John Mayer. I mean, when the last time we really talked about John Mayer? I think the last time was like what? When he was dating Katy Perry, or when Taylor Swift was writing a song about him or something. Who checking for John Mayer? As quiet as it's kept, Ed Sheeran took John Mayer's spot. And that's cool with me. um, Really, I don't think Nicki Minaj should have replied to his initial tweet to begin with. But if she were to reply, I think a good reply for Nicki Minaj would have just been a link to his 2010 Playboy interview. Just post a link and say, really? That would have been a good reply. And that would have been a very, politically correct reply, where it's like, they can't, like, the media and the white folks can't come after her for that, right? So she would be able to say what she wants to say, or at least get her message across, or at least some type of a message across, um, without having to deal with like backlash, so to speak. Some, perhaps still some backlash though, but it's not. It's different though, because like when you come for somebody, quote unquote, come for somebody, and you come for them as in a certain way that's perhaps more, aggressive and malicious, people kind of get caught up in the whole aggressive, malicious part of it and miss the actual message sometimes. So if she came at him in an aggressive, malicious way, then people are going to be like, oh, that's so offensive, Nicki Minaj. What are you saying? Oh, don't do that. That's evil. All that stuff, right? But if she had just posted a tweet with a link to the 2010 Playboy article, then people can't really come for her in that way. Then they would have to deal with what she's actually putting forward, right? This way she would have a message that was palatable to the white people that would want to come for her for bringing this up, right? But if she brought it up in a different way, then they would come for her off of like, oh, this respectability politics type stuff, right? So I think that would have been the best way for Nicki Minaj to reply to John Mayer, if she were to reply. Okay. Another way that she could reply, and this is her being, going the aggressive, malicious route, right? And she could have just been like, K boy, please. That would have been a good reply too. Then with the link to the article, right? Or like, or either like, perhaps I don't date cave dogs. I don't date subhuman cave beasts. I deal with human beings. All right. Or perhaps I don't deal with white supremacists. Link the article where he's referring to his penis as a white supremacist and David Duke. It's so many variations that she could have done. This particular variation, I don't think this was the best way to go about it, Nicki. But then again, as I said, Nicki Minaj is a coon on the low. All right, she is. I think this kind of demonstrates that Nicki Minaj is not so much pro-black as she is pro-Nicki Minaj. All right, because you remember back, I think like in 2015, the VMAs had announced their list of nominees for Video of the Year and like Best Choreography, et cetera, and all that stuff. And Nicki Minaj felt some type of a way because her videos were not nominated. Her Anaconda video wasn't nominated. And she went on like a Twitter rant. Then some of Taylor Swift's fans showed Taylor this Twitter rant. And of course, you know, Taylor Swift never misses a chance to be a victim. So of course she's gonna come running claiming victimhood, right? Oh, Nicki, it's so unlike you to pit women against women. Oh my God, Nicki. And then, well, maybe when the men took your spot, Nicki. So then it kind of turned into like a Twitter beef between Nicki Minaj and Taylor Swift, when I don't even think Nicki Minaj is really point blank coming from. I don't think Nicki Minaj was point blank coming for Taylor Swift, but that's how it came when it hit the media. That's how they spun it, though. And Nicki Minaj got typecasted as the angry black woman in the scenario, and I'm like, okay, you know, people were kind of like on Nicki Minaj's side, right? Black people were like, overall we were like, okay, all right, but I think where I'm going with this is basically to say that Nicki Minaj, while she's calling out all these white women, she's not calling them out more so for like, you know, pro-black, I'm down, let me, you know, reveal some things about the industry and call some things out. It's more so for her. Again, like when she went after Miley Cyrus on stage, right? It was more about her. And not that it can't be about her, but it's just saying that it's just about, like, Nicki ain't pro-black. She pro-Nicki. She pro-Nicki Minaj. All right? So don't get it twisted. Don't get confused. These people will sometimes ride the pro-black wave, the pro-black movement for the money, for some notoriety, for some fame. You know, just like, who else did it recently? T.I., like he did with that whole little video thing, his music video that he put out, right? I know some people gonna be offended by this, but to an extent, Kendrick Lamar has done this. To an extent, you know, he was talking about blacker the berry, the sweeter juice. Then when we see his girlfriend, it's like, oh, oh, we didn't expect that. And then that's a whole nother video in itself. And I kind of thought about making a video about that, but I was like, well, too much time has passed, perhaps. You know, perhaps it may be viewed as like me being, you know, divisive and trying just to stir up some shit, you know. Not that I'm like super popular or anything, but I'm just saying. And super relevant. I know that I'm not. But another lesson in this situation is for black women, particularly black women who perhaps interracially date or have entertained the idea of interracially dating. It's like, you know, black women, I'm not telling you who you should and should not get with. Ultimately, I think that is a personal decision. And I don't want you to misconstrue and get this message twisted, all right? But basically, it's just like, be careful and be mindful of the situation and the potential situations you could get into dealing with men of other races, especially white men. Because as quiet as it's kept, there's a lot of white men who kind of have these similar thoughts and feelings. Honestly. Does every white man have these feelings or thoughts? I don't know. I can't say yes or no. I'm sure there's one. I'm sure there's one. I'll give you one. But do you really think you're going to come across that one? And also, It's like we got the receipts on the John Mayer. We don't got the receipts on these other dudes out here, you know. And sometimes, even if they marry you and have kids with you, they still might have these thoughts. And again, honestly, this goes for both black men and black women, but considering the topic at hand, this is, I'm addressing more so black women. But honestly, I think both uh, the cave beast and, the cave Becky both have this mentality, ultimately. But also, for the black women who were perhaps may have had a crush on John Mayer at one point because they may have been, you know, captured by the whole glitz and glams and the lyrics and all that whatever bullshit. Um, but yeah, like I will say to the black women who perhaps may have actually liked John Mayer, I'll say that this speaks to John Mayer. This doesn't speak to you. And where I'm coming from with that is this speaks to John Mayer and his mentality. Like just because John Mayer may not want you doesn't mean that you are not valuable and wanted. All right. And the John Mayer, I'm like, okay, boy, sit down. Like, sit down somewhere. Come on. Like, who told you? Who who gave you this idea? You really that desperate for some promo? I guess so, because I haven't heard a song from you in years. And when I can't really that Bonnie is a Wonderland song. That's the only thing that comes to mind. But I'm like, dude, sit down and get a tan. And sit down and get. I guess maybe this is why you maybe reaching out to Nicki Minaj because you want some melanin in your life because you tired of looking at that pale, pasty face, wondering why you look like a ghost haunting the place. I know it's tough being a pale face. I know it's tough. And I know on some level you don't want to admit that. I get that because you're so wrapped up in white supremacy. You can't admit that because for you it's a mental thing. I understand that. But there's also a mental thing that you need to admit to yourself. Because that's the thing. On one hand, he's about this whole white supremacy thing, and then on the other hand, he still wants to sort of, you know, get some melanin in his life. And also, like Nicki Minaj, we say a lot of things, but ultimately, I'll say that Nicki Minaj is more so top shelf, a top shelf type of woman. And she has, she looks good, with or without the whole buffoonery, coon, clown makeup and stuff. She's well accomplished and she has a lot of money. What you bringing to the table, Mayor, John Mayer? What you bringing to the table? Besides some struggle genes, what you bringing to the table? Shout out to Cynthia G. Shout out to Cynthia G, y'all. But yeah, what you bringing to the table, John Mayer? What's his net worth? Honestly, let's compare net worths right quick. Right quick. Let's do this. Let me check. From what I've gathered, I think that John Mayer's net worth, according to some sources, is calculated to be around 40 million, while Nicki Minaj's net worth is calculated to be around 75 million. All right. He was worth more than I thought. I'll give him that. He worth more than me. I'll give him that. Yeah. Still a pale faced cave beast. Can't buy melanin. I bet you that. Bet you that $40 million can't buy him some melanin. But, let me bring this video to a close, y'all. I don't like to abuse animals. I don't like to abuse cave dogs. I don't really like to hurt animals. I don't really like to do that. You know, but if you like this video, or if you have something to say about this topic, at least, leave a comment. You know, leave a comment. What do you think? How do you feel about this? Feel free to let me know. Feel free to comment. Feel free to respond. Yeah, thanks a lot. All right. But thanks for watching, you guys. Definitely. Adios and goodbye for now.